Is it recording?
Yeah.
All right, Jamie, here's your Weller's Foolproof Bourbon. Get a little taste.
Down the hatch.
Brunswick.
You don't have to down it, sip it.
I've got a 50-mile radius set up, but I usually don't go that far unless...
Oh my gosh. You lightweight.
I don't think I like that.
Oh, jeez.
I'll finish it, but
Yeah.
I think I just grew like 3 hairs.
The second sip is better. The second sip is
I feel it in
better.
my heart, and then my head's getting warm.
Oh my gosh. One more sip. The second sip is always better.
He might need to sit down.
This is the organized work.
Yeah, summer gets hectic.
You don't like it?
I come home.
Man, what am I going to do with you?
My head's all tingly.
Welcome, patrons. Now, clearly, I am not a bourbon drinker. I prefer whiskey if I'm going to drink anything at all. But this is the entire Ohio trip that I took a few days ago. We get to check out Colonial Homestead. I'm going to highlight some of the tools there. I get to hang out with some of my friends. We go to the Blue Spruce plant and the Woodpeckers plant. There's not much more information I can give you about those 2 videos, but I'll include them in here so at least they're ad-free for you guys. But first things first, I got to take my dog to boarding.
Good morning.
Hello. Thank you.
All right, you're going.
All right.
Adios. We'll see you later.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
I hate leaving my dog on these trips, but I know she loves it there, so it'll be all right. Next thing is we got to pick up our buddy Eric.
Yeah.
He is clearly just as excited as I am. Now, from here, we go over to Ohio, which is about 2.5 hours away to Colonial Homestead. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to dive into a few tools here, more specifically the woodworking tools, because I'm assuming that if you're a patron or a member of the channel, you're more into woodworking than anything else. But if you want to see the full video of the tour, check out the YouTube channel for that. I want to start with this hutch right here because this is some of the collector's items. Now, he has a Stanley No. 9, which is an awesome plane. He has 3 of those Stanley Bibles, which is basically a book on all the Stanley tools. And if you can snag one, it's awesome. But they're, I think, like $100 a piece. Also in this cabinet, he has 2 No. 1s. His prices on that note are eBay value, market value. This is not a place where you're really going to go and get a deal. He knows what the tools are worth, and he really targets users and collectors, not flippers, not people that are going to buy the tools for cheap and then sell them for more. So the No. 1s, one of them I think was $2,200, and I think the other one was $1,700. He also carries maker-made items, which I thought was really cool. So there are these marking knives right here that are ebony and bronze, and one day I hope to get one. It was just out of my price range for what I was buying that day. These were $85. There's also somebody that makes these really cool file holders, and the bronze part of the file holder is actually brass from like a bullet shell, the casings of the shell. So this one right here is a Winchester. I just thought that was really cool. I should have snagged one. Every time I go in there, I look at them, but again, I was out of money with what I bought. Somebody else makes these plane adjusting hammers, and they varied in price. The one that you're looking at here was $125. Another maker produces these, I think they're Travis shears. I don't know who makes them, but his logo is that HB right there. They might be scrapers. They might be Travis shears. I'm not exactly sure, but they're pretty cool. They were a little bit pricey, but handmade items typically are. He also makes sheaths, so those are mostly for timber framing tools and draw knives, but I thought that they were neat. They were available as well. Here are some more marking knives and some pocket knives that were actually really cool. Those marking knives were super comfortable. Then we move over to a display for Jason London Tools. Some of you guys might know him. He makes axes, he makes draw knives, he makes spoke shaves, he makes adze, if that's how you pronounce them, but his items are really cool also. Moving back over to some of the collector type items, he has 3 benches along the wall that are very nicely displayed of all of the different collector's items that he has. If this doesn't motivate you to go to the store, I don't know what will, because there are things on this table that some of them I don't even know what they are, but they're just really cool looking tools. Some of them are user made, some of them are from actual companies. Like it's just really, really neat. He has some original Bailey planes before Bailey became Stanley. He has a ton of collectible infills and shoulder planes. It just blows my mind, the kinds of things that I can see when I'm in there. This right here was a rosewood smoothing plane. and I wanted it, and Eric almost bought it, but he decided to go with something else. If it's still there, we might snag it next time. But it'll probably be sold. Now, I would love to talk to you about all of these different tools and their history and information on them, but I am not that well read on a lot of vintage tools. I know like Stanley's pretty well, but when it comes to infills and specialty planes and Bailey planes, I don't know much at all, so I'm sorry that I can't really dive into these. But James Wright does have a video that looks into some of these planes, and the owner of the shop, Dan, actually talks about a few of them as well. The last few things I want to point out here is that he does sell completed tool chests. So you get the chest and the tools included in them. Now, the prices aren't cheap, but they are really cool tools that are ready to go, and you can buy a whole kit and take it home with you. As a sidebar here too, check out this massive Cooper's plane. It has been there for a long time, and it's probably going to stay there because it is kind of a uncommon item, but I just thought that it was really cool, and I enjoy seeing it every time I go in there. He does also sell different finishes and milk paints. He has some chalk paint too. They sell beeswax. They sell oils. So there are quite a bit of items in there that's not always tools, but this is still a part of woodworking too. He does also sell tools in the box, so he usually keeps those in one place. So if you are a collector and you're looking for a tool in a box, he gets quite a bit of them. Now, the very last thing that I want to point out is that they offer shop time. So if you're in the area, you want to use one of their workbenches, use their tools, call ahead, see if the shop's available, and then you can go in there and use it. The other thing they do is they sell lumber kits. So they sell a workbench kit where they sell you the lumber, you take it home and you assemble it. They do the same thing for chairs and the same thing for like sheds or tiny homes. So I highly recommend visiting, and if you guys are going to go, let me know and I'll join you guys because it's not too far from me and I love going to this store. Now, after this, we went to dinner with our friends, and then we went over to our buddy's shop. His name is David. There is also Eric, Brian, and Kenny. And Kenny has some amazing tools. Oh, and David's shop is the one that we did the tour of. But let's look at what tools Kenny brought for us to check out. The first item is not really a tool, but it is this really cool Union twist drill bit case or cabinet. It has a ton of different drawers, and a lot of the drawers actually have things in them. We don't have a lot of information on it, but according to Kenny, the last one that sold I think was like $3,000 on eBay. Like, this thing is very, very uncommon, and this is in phenomenal shape, especially the fact that it includes a lot of the bits in it. The next tool we want to look at here is this Ruger hand drill. Now, if I remember correctly, Ruger, before making guns, he started making tools. He didn't do well as a tool maker, so he switched to guns, or so the legend has it. I have a separate video that talks about this tool. I think it's included in another video or something like that, but it goes into a little bit more detail on it. I just think that these are really cool, that it's a pistol grip drill and it's a Ruger. The next one here is what they call a nail saw. Now, I've never heard about it before, but apparently it's intended to cut nails, and the blade can be changed out, which I thought was really neat as well. The other interesting thing is it has a wheat carving, which for a nail saw, you wouldn't think that it would be fancy, but it is. This is a, we think, user-made scraper from Italy. We couldn't find any kind of maker's marks or anything like that on it, but I thought it was really neat and wanted to show you guys it too. On that note, Kenny just finds the coolest and craziest tools, and he is one of the luckiest people I know with all of the tools that he finds. The last one here is a Stanley 171, which is pretty much rare. It's a very, very uncommon plane to see, and the fact that this one is japanned and almost in perfect shape, it is amazing. I love Kenny to death, but I wish he would sell tools, because he doesn't sell tools. He just goes to estate sales, flea markets, etc. and buys them. Oh yeah, and now here the whiskey comes out, or the bourbon.
Oh my gosh. You lightweight.
I don't think I like that.
These next couple clips are going to be of tool nerds in their natural habitats.
Hey, did you watch the video?
I did. What was that?
Stubby Nubs did on wearing rings?
Just getting
Yeah.
cork out.
I don't use any power tools.
Okay.
I'm okay.
He said more. What did he say? 250,000 people have their fingers degloved because of rings.
Oh, wow.
More than table saw accidents.
Wow.
Yeah. I got the blues, baby. Look at this Miller's Falls Buck Rogers.
It's awesome.
It makes my liver quiver.
Oh my liver quiver. We're gonna go this way. Oh, look at the plain wellness sticker.
Good segue.
I know. Oh, see the board. We're gonna have people guess, and then at the end of the video, if we find out, we'll tell them what it is.
That wood identification group is real good.
Yeah, they are. So we're thinking some sort of mahogany, right?
It's pink heart.
It's not pink heart.
It does feel too hard and dense to be mahogany.
That is true. But I don't think it's a pink
But I
heart.
have walnut
Have you
that's
scraped
hard.
it? Have you scraped? Hey,
Oh, this is like plain and purple heart. That's enough of that.
look at everybody sniffing it.
What's that?
What about these Japanese ones?
What Japanese?
These ones here.
These?
Yeah, they're Japanese.
Are you sure they're Japanese? Because they got.
They're Japanese. I don't care. Pull them up. They're
This
Japanese.
is 1/2 inch.
I don't care. They're Japanese.
Those look like marbles.
They're marble.
Japanese. They say 1/2.
I don't care. They're Japanese.
Let me see.
I
one.
can prove it to you.
How are you gonna prove it?
They're not Japanese.
I'm telling you, they're Japanese.
How'd you?
I
How?
researched. I researched.
That looks like a
it.
marble.
Right there, Japan.
It's
Oh, wow.
Japan, Okay.
How's that?
That's
I don't know.
hilarious.
Who's your daddy? Whee!
I got it that time.
These don't hold an edge
I
for
bet
nothing.
you they're garbage.
They are. They're
Now, before we go, we have to catch David singing again.
What's the Phantom of the Opera saying for me?
The Phantom of the Opera is here.
There we go.
Then it was over to my favorite Airbnb. I have stayed at this one twice now, and I highly recommend it if you're going to be staying in the area. These next two videos are going to be of the Blue Spruce plant and the Woodpeckers plant. And as I mentioned in the beginning, there's not much more information I can give you in these videos. So they're basically just going to be the same videos that are posted on the main YouTube channel, but at least you guys will be able to watch them without any ads. Welcome to the channel. In this video, we get to tour the Blue Spruce manufacturing plant and see how they make their saws and their chisels. Now, if you follow the channel, you know that I have been becoming more and more obsessed with Blue Spruce products, so I wanted to see the plant, and they invited me over and actually let me record the process. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first place we have to start is the saws, more specifically the saw handle. So they start with random material like we do if we were going to build our own projects. And then what they do is they have people come in on the weekends into this area of the shop and mill everything. And the reason that's done on the weekends is because they don't want all of this dust getting into places that it shouldn't be. So mill it on the weekends, let the dust settle, and then they continue the process. For the resin infusing, it goes into vats like this, and it goes in there for about 2 weeks or until the bubbles stop rising to the top. Once the bubbles stop, they turn off the vacuums and they let them sit for an additional 2 weeks. So this process takes a month, but I guarantee you it's well worth it because when they resin infuse things, it doubles its weight in density, which makes it more durable, makes it last longer. It also adds to some of the weight to help the balance out with some of their tools. So I am very happy that they take the time to do this. Now the metal that you see on top is just some weights to prevent the material from floating up. The next step is the handles go to their CNC machine. Now this CNC machine was actually really impressive because it can do 6 handles at once in 3 different operations. So the first one is they put the blank on there and it cuts out a lot of the material on one side. The next operation is they flip that blank over and cut out the rest of the material where you can see the outline of the handle. The operator of the machine then cuts the 2 tabs so the handles are removed from the blank. Then they are placed upright where the machine goes in and cuts the slot for the spine. So I just thought that this was really cool that essentially they can work on 6 handles and just keep flipping them through the operations until they're done. The next step is sanding, and the guy that they have sanding their handles was awesome.
I didn't do my hair today.
What? I'm sorry?
Said I didn't do my hair today.
That's a good one.
He was super chill. He was really cool. So I'm going to let him explain this next process.
In
from the CNC. They come in like this. So they get broken out of the 2 tabs in the stock, and then it comes over here on the belt sander, the 2 tabs come off, and then the sanding starts.
In case you missed it, I just want to point out that he does all of this sanding by hand. He sands until all of the mill marks are gone and everything is perfectly smooth, and I just think that is super impressive. To cut the slot in the handle for the blade, Jared came up with this really cool sled that goes onto the bandsaw, holds the handle exactly where it needs to be, and then you just slide the handle and the sled into the blade, it cuts your slot, and you're good to go. I thought that was really impressive. The next step is onto the actual blade. So the first thing they do is they put it into this etching machine. Now it has these different pins in this jig, so depending on the length of the plate, they can just set it in there, so then that way the etch comes out in the same place on every single saw that they do. After it is etched, it goes into a CNC machine that actually cuts the teeth. Now let me explain something about that real quick. When it comes to a saw, precision, accuracy, and consistency are highly important. If it's not accurate or consistent, then you're going to have a weird cut. The old Foley and Acme sharpening machines, that's one of the reasons they were so popular back in the day, because they could get consistent and accurate results. The only problem with them is they take a lot of time to set up and they're tough to maintain. So that's why this CNC machine does a phenomenal job, because it is accurate and consistent across the length of the plate and on multiple saw plates. Now, right now, if you notice, they're only able to do 1 saw plate at a time because that CBN wheel is at a fixed angle. So what they have to do is they have to adjust the jig that holds the plate and set that at different angles to create the bevel angles. So they'll move it to one side, run the operation, switch it to the other angle, run the other operation. If they tried to do multiple saw plates at the same time, that stack up effect would create wildly different angles for the saws at the end of the stack versus the saws in the middle of the stack. Now, he does have a solution for this coming up soon to increase the production time by having the CBN wheel actually shift angle and keep the saws at 90 degrees. And then he also made it so the CBN wheels can cut 2 teeth at once. So I'm super excited for that, because it is going to drastically change the amount of saws that they can do at one time. A little note on the CBN wheels, just because I was curious too. This is what the CBN wheels look like, and they can get on average about 60 saws completed per CBN wheel. Now at the corners or the points of the CBN wheel, that's what wears the fastest, because that is what's doing most of the cutting and cutting the gullets. And the gullets on these saws are wildly important. You don't want to have one deep gullet and one shallow gullet. It just creates issues. So that's the part of the CBN wheel that wears the fastest. But again, they can still get about 60 saws per wheel, which is pretty good. I got to give a huge shout out to the guy that is currently showing us this operation. He's also the guy that showed us how the handles were cut in the other CNC machine. He was an awesome guy, super down to earth, explained things really well. The only issue I ran into is that we were surrounded by a bunch of machines, and no matter how much editing I did, I couldn't get his audio to come out clearly. So unfortunately, you have to hear my voice and hear me explaining things, but huge shout out to him. He was awesome. So once they take the plates out of this CNC machine, in the cutting operation, burrs can be created on the sides of the plate. So he takes this block, and this block is what we use to clean sandpaper. I can't remember what it's called, but we all know what it is, and he just uses that to remove the burrs from the sides of the teeth. After that, he then takes it under this scope to inspect the teeth and make sure that everything looks good, everything looks the same. On that note, Blue Spruce had a huge, they're dedicated to quality control. At every single station I was at, quality control was occurring, and that to me is amazing. I love that part of it. Once he checks the teeth that way, he then stands the plate up on its back to inspect the teeth from looking down on top of them. And the reason he does that is because these bevel angles are so small, he has to see which tooth needs to be set which direction, because you want to make sure those line up. If they're backwards, you're going to have a lot of issues with the saw. So he uses the scope, finds out which tooth to set, and then he goes over to the setting machine. I don't know what it's called. Hammer set. I think that's what it's called.
Why is it in a box? Because this is also very loud, and the maintenance team decided that they wanted to make me a DJ and give me a DJ booth.
That machine was pretty loud, so I'm going to give you guys a little sample. After the teeth are set, the plate is ready for final assembly, but before that, let's talk about the spines, and I'm going to let Jared do that.
Clean from the mill, and we'll show you the machine, but they've been professionally flattened and leveled. It de-stresses the material completely so that it can actually be truly flat. We usually work to a tolerance of 4 to 5 thousandths across the entire length.
Nice.
From there, it gets milled, and then it comes down here, it gets tensioned. From there, it goes back out again for black nitride, then comes back in for final assembly. But these are one of the most labor-intensive components that we do in saws.
Now that we have the handle, the plate, and the spine all ready to go, the saw is ready to be assembled. So the first thing that he does here is he cuts out the different shapes and designs that are on the plate itself. After that, he takes it over to the file. Anytime you cut metal, especially spring steel, it likes to create sharp edges or burrs. So what he's doing is he's removing those and rounding them over and then just making sure that everything looks good and straight on the edges. And then that way we don't cut ourselves also. After that, he is going to put some tape over the plate. And the reason he needs to tape it is because that plate is going to be put in a vise and you want to make sure that it's not going to get scratched. He's going to use the file again. My understanding is that he is making sure that the top of the plate is flat so that way it seats better into the spine, and then also probably to remove some burrs. What he's doing here is another step in their quality control. So he is taking a feeler gauge and checking the opening on the spine to make sure that it is even across the length. If it's not even, that means that you could get some heavier clamping pressure on one side and less on the other. That can create some issues within the plate. It can create some warping, some bowing, that kind of stuff. So he's just making sure that everything is even so that way when he does put the spine on, it gives even clamping pressure across the length of the plate. Next is putting the handle on the plate, and the first thing that he does is he puts the handle on the plate to mark out where he needs to punch the holes for the hardware. Now this surprised me because I thought he was going to grab a drill and drill out the plate, but Jared was telling me that the heat of the drill bit can cause issues on the plate as well, so they actually use a punch to punch out these holes. On that note, I was impressed by how much of this is actually done by hand. I really expected most of this to be done by machines, but they still have a lot of people putting their hands on these tools and getting them together and getting them perfect for us. So again, I just thought that that was pretty neat because when I think of like assembly lines and plants, I think of all machines now, but that's not the case here. Then once he gets the hardware into place, we have a finished saw, and the very next step that he does is something that I tell people to do all the time, which is once you get a new saw, cut full depth with it, because that will tell you if you have any issues with the saw. And with this one, he didn't have any issues and it came out perfect. Now on to my next favorite tool, the chisels.
Tate, what do you start with here?
I start with the blade, and I end up with this.
So this is another really cool machine that I believe they call a 3-axis machines because it actually rotates and moves around, but it can do 3 operations in the same process. So the first one is they bevel the side of the chisel and then start cutting out the tang. The second operation is the other side. So they cut the bevel on the other side of the chisel and then finish out the tang. Now, if you notice, this chisel does not have a cutting edge. So the third operation is making the primary bevel on the chisel. Next, they go to the grinder, and this is one machine that I would love to have in my shop because what it does is it grinds the tops and the bottoms of the chisel flat. So you don't have to do it yourself. The last 2 steps are the backs get polished in this really interesting machine, which I would also like to have. And then they all get hand cleaned and hand sharpened by this lady right here. So huge shout out to her. Now on to the handles, which are also resin infused like we discussed earlier. So they take this square stock and put it through this crazy, terrifying machine that I did not want to get super close, but basically you put square stock into it, it uses these gigantic cutters and comes out round. So that way they can use it in their CNC lathes. Here is the first CNC lathe, and what it does is it shapes out the handle part of the chisel handle. So you are left with something like this. And then the second lathe actually cuts out where the ferrule is going to go and then drills the hole for the tang, leaving you with something like this. And then from there, it goes on to sanding and polishing, which is where you see the final results of these beautiful chisel handles. It is all assembled and put together and then ready for shipping. So if you couldn't tell, this was a huge geek out moment for me. I loved every bit of this trip, getting to see the manufacturing buildings, getting to meet the workers. It was just an amazing, amazing experience. Like I said, I have been becoming more and more obsessed with their products because of the quality and the performance of them. But then to get to meet the workers and see that they're all like really chill and down to earth and they're cracking jokes with us and they like their jobs. Like even the guy that sands all day was talking about how much he enjoys his job and that nobody else understands it. And he's right, because I don't, but it's just great to hear that the people making these products that I love are also cool people. So it was just awesome. I don't know what else to say about it. Keep an eye out because I will be doing a video of the Woodpeckers plant so you can see the big machines and stuff that they have there as well, because I also got to tour that facility. And if you want to see the whole trip that I took, so I went to a place called Colonial Homestead, which I'll have a video on that. I went to visit my friend David, then we did the plant tour the next day. If you want to see all of that, feel free to check out my Patreon because it was just a full-on like geek out trip, the entire thing. Alright, so if you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, feel free to let us know. Make sure you stick around for some bonus footage at the end, and then huge shout out to Blue Spruce. Thank you again for letting me visit your plant and just like crash the party for a while. Alright, thank you guys. Have a good day.
Oh, that was perfect.
Will, are you looking at this little psycho?
Yeah.
You are too hyper. I know.
There's a lot of work that goes into assembling on this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, jeez. Not a good start.
There you go. Yes.
Sliver.
What's up? I just have to show.
I have no idea.
Look at that. That's awesome.
I want to see the guy in action.
The Acme? Yeah. That thing is sweet.
Welcome to the channel. In this video, we get to tour the Woodpeckers manufacturing plant. And just to explain, this place is massive and sounds like this. So, I will be your tour guide, but huge shout out to Will and George for showing us around. And the first machine I want to look at is this one. So this machine is absolutely massive, but the cool thing is it's all automated. So what it does is it stores the metal sheet stock. The operator can basically type on a computer and say, send me this, and the machine will automatically send it over to the laser engraver, which is this machine right here. Yes, that's a laser engraver, which is huge. And I tried to capture video of this massive machine in action, but because of the reflection, I couldn't catch it too well. But you can see the sparks flying here, and then you also get to see what the material is that they were cutting out. Once the laser engraver is done, it goes to this part of the machine where the parts are shaken out so they can be collected, and all of this happens automatically also. Now, the other cutting machines that they have cuts that phenolic sheets? Phenolics? Phenolics? You know what I'm talking about. So it cuts this stuff out on these massive machines as well, and I was just geeking out over like the sheer size of all of the machines they have in this shop. It's just crazy. Now on these towers is where they store some of the round and the square stock that goes into the different machines to mill out different parts, which are these machines right here. A lot of these machines have the automatic feeder, so they can put the big round stock in there and it will feed into the machine, cut the part off, feed some more, cut the part off, so on and so forth, until I guess the rest of that bar is gone. And in the machine, the parts actually drop out and into this little tray for easy collection. Now you may be thinking that these machines create a lot of waste, and they do, but the good news is they recycle. Right now, all of their parts that receive the red coating have to be sent out to have that completed, but what they're working on right now is seeing if there's a way that they can do that in-house. And if they're able to, the other thing they might be able to do is do different colors for like special releases or limited runs, that kind of stuff. So it was kind of cool to see this process and kind of how much it would take to get color on their parts. Now, some of the parts after they come out of the machines are pretty rough, and they actually go through something that's like a drum sander, which I didn't expect, because you think drum sander, you think woodworking. At least I do, but they use it for that. They also have these big vats that, with a special liquid and these cones right here, the materials get shaken around and spun in there for a while until they come out polished. After the parts are cut out, polished, and got their red coating, they then go into the laser engravers. And in this room, they had a ton of them. And it seems like they have different strengths, because some of them were working on the aluminum and the other ones were working on steel, like on saw blades and stuff like that. So it was impressive, the amount of laser engravers that they have. And pretty much all of them were in operation while we were at the plant. This one right here was my favorite because I like those squares and I like the rulers with the idea that you can put the pencil in there. So I just liked seeing them get etched in person. The last step is their final quality control check. Now, if you know Woodpeckers, you know that they sell the most accurate and precise tools on the market. So this has to be their final step. They make sure that everything is lined up and everything is perfectly square before it goes off to shipping. The last thing I want to note that I thought was pretty cool was the fact that since Blue Spruce and Woodpeckers are now a combined company, Woodpeckers can mill things for Blue Spruce and Blue Spruce can mill things for Woodpeckers. So it's just really cool that those two companies have come together, because I like both of them and they both make quality products, and working together, they're going to make even better products. This was another amazing and blessed trip, and after those plant tours, we went to dinner with some of the bosses, and they agreed to be sponsors for Plain Wellness, which is our nonprofit. Basically, when a tool need arises, reach out to them, and they said they'd be willing to donate tools to us. I told them I don't want any sponsors for my channel, as you guys know, but for Plain Wellness, I mean, it's just huge, and everybody there was just super cool, really nice, really down to earth. I loved being able to see my friends. It was awesome hanging out with Eric. I know this is technically work, quote unquote, but trips like this, videos like this, experiences like this, I don't really consider work. I just consider them fun and being able to geek out with other people. So if you guys ever have an opportunity to take trips like this, I highly recommend doing it, because it really is just good for your soul. But alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, feel free to let me know, and have a good day.